Today we're talking about how to increase the rotation in your golf swing, which is going to improve your consistency, improve your accuracy, and help you add some club head speed to all of your shots. I'm PGA teaching professional Todd Cope, Director of Instruction for US Golf TV and the Sanford Power Golf Academy. And rotation is a big topic today. It's a big topic in golf instruction, and you gotta have some rotation in your golf swing if you wanna play some great golf. So let's dive right into it. First of all, when we say rotation, what are we talking about? We're talking about rotation meaning around a certain point. So let's say right in the center of my body. This was like the center of my body, kind of the buttons here on my shirt. When I turn and I rotate, this is what we mean by rotation. So in the golf swing we have rotation, we have side to side, and we have up and down. Those are the three types of movement we have in the golf swing. We're talking about rotation. So let me go ahead and hit a shot here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three specific things that are going to definitely increase your rotation. One in the setup, one for the backswing, one for the finish, and then I'm going to give you a bonus tip at the end to kind of tie it all together. So I've got my live view set up here. Whenever I'm doing some training, especially when I'm working on rotation, I love using live view. I've got it in the face-on position because it provides instant feedback, and I can literally see myself and what I'm doing. It's like having almost another set of eyes. So I've got a red line and a blue line, all right, on both sides. So when I swing the golf club, I want to rotate around the trail side. You can see I've rotated around that on the blue line. And then I want to rotate around the front side. See how I've done that with the red line. So how do we do that? Well, setup. First of all, in the setup, you want to take your feet and you want to flare your toes slightly. So if I'm set up right here and I take my toes, and I got my feet just kind of close together, strictly from a demonstration standpoint, if my toes are straight, let's say at a 0-degree angle, all right? In order to rotate around that particular position, you're going to have a lot of flexibility. So what I like to do is I like to tell my students to flare their toes and point them a little bit. Now how much? It kind of depends upon your style. It depends upon your flexibility. But as a general rule, let's say around 30 degrees. That's a good general rule. So I'm sitting here, normal stance width. This would be no toe flare. This would be a little bit. Now, when you flare your toes a little bit, what happens is it allows you to turn your hips, which allows you to turn your shoulders, which allows you to rotate in the golf swing. If your feet are square, straight ahead, I see a lot of side to side, almost swaying, too much swaying side to side. So for tip number one is to take your toes and flare them out a little bit. Now, if you slice the golf ball, I want you to make one other tiny adjustment to your setup. I want you to take your stance and what we call slightly close it. So if you look at this down the line, that's set up with an 8-iron. Okay, we've talked about toe flare. Toes are out a little bit, but my feet, my hips, and my shoulders are parallel, or what we call square to my target line. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see that. What I want you to do, if you slice the golf ball, or if you lack any flexibility or mobility, if maybe you had your hip replaced, or you had maybe a scope done on your knee or your shoulder, any type of injury, especially in the trail side, especially in the right side of your body if you're a right-handed golfer, left side if you're a left-handed golfer, is I want you to take your stance and I want you to close it slightly. So we started here, right? Neutral, and I'm going to take my feet and just close them a little bit. Now, why is that important? Well, when I take my stance and I close it slightly, what you're doing is you're building in some rotation. Okay, so let's think about from a number standpoint. Let's say my goal was to have, let's say for sake of discussion, 60 degrees of rotation. I'm just picking that number out of the air, 60 degrees. So at the top of my backswing, I wanted my hips, my shoulders, I wanted 60 degrees of rotation. This is just arbitrary number. Well, if I take my feet and I point them 10 degrees to the right, I have built in already 10 degrees of rotation for my backswing. All right, so now I only have to turn, in theory, 50 degrees to get to the total of 60. And one of the biggest reasons I think people slice the golf ball, and this is probably you, is because they lack rotation in the backswing. So tip number one, point the toes. If you slice it, just actually close the stance a little bit, and that will definitely help you. Now, tip number two, we'll talk about the forward swing. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Do me a favor, tell somebody else about US Golf TV. All right, ring the bell. We're putting out great content. I mean, we've got videos well over 1 million views. We get comments and stuff every single day. I love reading them. And I'm telling you, I do my best to respond to almost all of them. We love hearing from you. And if you want some unique information that you've never seen before, check out our website at usgolftv.com. So let's talk about rotation specifically for the backswing and what can we do to increase that. Well, here's one of my favorite drills. And this, I'm going to do it, first of all, slow. Okay, but I'm going to take my regular setup. Anytime I'm doing drills, typically we use like a 7-iron or an 8-iron. I've got my 8-iron today. And what you're going to do is when you make your backswing, you're going to take your trail foot, which for me is my right foot, and you're just going to step it back a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do it without a swing. So I'm here, little step. Okay, stay here, step. Now as I do that, remember my lines here, right? There's my blue line, there's my red line. We talked about that. When I step back, see the rotation. Okay, now I'm going to add the club. Boom, there's little 1. There's 2. Now if you watch any of my videos, and hopefully you subscribe to US Golf TV, you know I love doing 3 setters. That's my favorite. I've just found over 25 plus years of coaching, three setters are really good. So here we go, let's do it with the ball, and then we're gonna tie it all together. So here we go, there's 1, and just feel the hips turning. There's 2, feel the shoulders turning, there's 3. Now I'm just gonna square up, and I'm just going to get that feel and just hit a regular shot. But I'm going to feel my hips rotate and turn. Man, that felt really good. Really good. So that's the second tip. If you want to increase rotation in the backswing, do that little step back. That's a really great way for you to get the feel and the pattern of how your body moves. So we got a little bit of setup, a little bit of trail side, how we do the backswing. Now, how about the forward swing? And then we'll talk about a way to tie it all together here. The forward swing, you probably know right where we're going with this, is going to be the opposite. Now this one I have found to be a little bit more challenging for a lot of golfers. All right, so here we go, we're setting here. So I'm gonna do it without a swing first. That's how I always start. So I'm just gonna step open. I'm just opening up. There it is, there's 1. Lead foot, there's 2. Just stepping back, there's 3, all right? Now I'm gonna add the club. So I make backswing, and there's 1. There's 2. Now this takes a little bit of coordination. There's 3, so I've got the feeling now in my body. I'm going to go ahead and square, get set up. Okay, I'm going to try to recreate that feel, back, rotate open. That felt really good. I opened up the hip and had great rotation. So when we talk about rotation in the golf swing, you got setup, you got backswing, you got forward swing rotation. But the question becomes, how am I going to tie all this together? You might be thinking to yourself, man, Todd, that's great for the driving range. That's a lot of things to think about. So here's something simple that you can do when you head to the golf course. When you finish your golf swing, all I want you to do, I'll do it from face on here first. All I want you to do is just make sure that your knees are touching and your trail foot, you're up on your right toe. This is an old classic tip. It has been around for ages, probably hundreds of years. So here's what it looks like when you're swinging the golf club. I'm going to swing it. Boom, I hit a little bit behind that, but I got my knees touching. I'm up on my foot there. Now what happens when you do that? Number 1 is your balance improves. Okay, but let's go back to the live view here. Here's I got my lines. Let's look at the finished position. I'm going to get my knees touching. Okay, that was closer to sound. Notice where I'm at. I'm rotated around that red line. I've got great rotation in the golf swing. So when we want to have rotation in the golf swing, we got to set up correctly. We've got to have a feel for the backswing, a feel for the forward swing, but you got to have a way to tie it in together. If you do these couple concepts, you're going to get more rotation in your golf swing, which means better contact, more enjoyment on the golf course, and definitely some lower scores.